Mark Bishop Show. Truly like a box of chocolates. You never know who you're going to meet. From business, lifestyle, and fun. Here's Mark.
Hello, folks. Welcome again to another episode. You know, everyone's using it, but not everyone is talking about it. And that's AI in the workplace. In fact, one new study from Cox Business shows that although Gen Z and Millennials are using AI tools, they're nervous to admit it to their bosses. So my special guest for this app will be Kelsea Warren, and she's a workplace values expert and founder of the Seamless Coach LLC. And she'll be joining me to talk about why many employees say they're keeping this, along with their feelings about other technologies, to themselves, and what business and IT leaders can learn from this. And she's joining me live from Cheyenne in Wyoming this morning. So welcome, Kelsea.
Thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Well, we're going to be talking about a workplace being future-proof, you know, defining what future-proof is and how to take care of rising leaders. And quite frankly, Kelsea, how much is too much? Concerns about tech overload in the workplace and how to talk to your boss about tech without losing your job, along with the cybersecurity, job security, how to address employee concerns about workplace tech. So what's your take on this new Cox Business Survey asking Gen Z and Millennials about workplace tech, uncovering something many are afraid to tell their bosses? What's going on?
Yeah, Mark. So I'm a millennial in the workplace, and I think I relate to a lot of the survey results that Cox Business put out. So I'll just list a few for you, and then we'll get into kind of more details from there.
Okay.
The new research found that Gen Z millennials are using a lot of workplace tech tools to keep themselves productive, which I can definitely resonate with. It seems like every day there is a new system or tool or AI component that we have to incorporate. But specific to AI, 60% of both groups are feeling positive about using it in the workplace, which I can also relate to. I think that that's a good sign. But as we'll get into, there's still a few challenges that we're experiencing. I think what's interesting to me, and as you kind of mentioned already, is that half of both of these groups reveal that they're actually a little bit nervous to share with their bosses how much these tools are contributing to their productivity.
Fear of job loss, 47%. Uncertainty about the company's AI policies, 30%. And factor into employees' hesitancy to speak up. The survey apparently, Kelsea, also revealed that despite being digital natives who feel confident in their ability to adopt a new technology, I can't believe this, nearly 70% of Gen Z and millennial employees feel overwhelmed by the number of tools that they're expected to use. Do you feel overwhelmed?
Yeah, so as a business owner, there's constant overwhelm, I think, with tech. And I think it can be a wonderful thing as well. I use a lot of automation. I also use AI in my business. But I think where the disconnect comes is really through the communication about these policies. So you will see that the Cox survey also found that Gen Z and millennials, many of them don't even know what the company's policy is or if they even have one. So one way for business and IT leaders to actually get a handle on this is to establish and communicate company policy around AI. And I think it's really important for this not only to be clear and transparent, but also to include the Gen Z and millennial workforce in the decision-making process to help them feel more empowered to start talking about some of these things.
So, Kelsea, by highlighting then this disconnect that you referred to, you know, between organizations and the younger employees, as a workplace values expert yourself and founder of this company, the Seamless Coach, you're hoping to encourage business owners, managers, and IT teams to make the necessary adjustments that meet the needs of the growing majority of employees. I mean, would that sort of be it in a nutshell?
Yeah, that's definitely right. We know from value alignment and that perspective that when companies and employees are aligned, that it produces better well-being and burnout prevention. So if you're thinking about like adding any kind of new tools relating to tech or defining any kind of policy, upgrading your legacy systems, why not reach out to the Gen Z and Millennials? They're the ones that use these tools the most. They have the best insights, and it's definitely going to lead to better outcomes, more adoption, and better engagement on these tech tools.
Well, no doubt you see, quite a bit, and you talk to quite a few people. I feel the pressure of the whole, tech tools and AI thing, and I can assure you I'm way over the millennial factor. But what's some of the biggest things that you find in talking to business leaders?
According to the study by Cox's research, 60% of Gen Z and Millennials actually say that they use their personal software or apps to get work done. And about half of each group actually say that their personal devices are faster and easier to use than their own workplace tech. This actually is creating a bit of a challenge, especially for tech and IT teams. It's called shadow IT, I learned. And without owning the resources and managing how and when they're being used by employees, teams have less visibility. They have less ability to remedy any challenges that could come up when employees are using their personal devices. So I think that having a company policy around AI, as we already discussed, and tech usage can definitely help. But when it comes to stepping it up a bit, I think what's even better is partnering with a managed IT service provider like Cox Business, like Rapid Scale. They're the experts in this, and they're going to really come alongside IT teams and monitor tech usage so they can prevent and even predict any kind of outages. Their expertise is going to be the most effective solutions, especially when it comes to the shadow IT issue.
That's a big thing. I guess anybody, today, particularly with remote, a lot of remote working models out there, working from home, you want to use your own gear, your own desktop or whatever, but the company says, oh, no, we use Microsoft. We don't use that one. We don't use this. We need you to do that. You're comfortable with what you've already got. So where do you see all this going in the future then? Like you're mentioning, basically, that, people like Cox can reach out and work together with everybody and still bring the teams in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be the experts in it. And I think, again, pointing back to the policy, making sure you have clear communication. But when it comes to just the tech overwhelm and future-proofing the business, as we kind of already mentioned, I think it's not just about IT. It's also about having the right people to manage the technology and grow the next generation of leaders as well. Specific to tech, though, I think it's important for business and IT leaders to just be more thoughtful and strategic about workplace tech rollout and communication.
Well, based on that, how can employees and business and IT leaders better communicate with each other about workplace tech and how it's being used? What's your suggestion?
So in addition to what I mentioned earlier about seeking input from these Gen Z and Millennials, the younger colleagues, and keeping them engaged through the decision-making process, you also want to keep them in the conversation ongoing. I think it's really important for leaders to stay curious, have conversation with these teammates, understand how any kind of tech is available to them, how it's working, how it's not working, how it could be improved, or any ideas that they may have. And of course, this is definitely a two-way street. It's not just on the leaders or IT teams. So if you fall into this Gen Z category or you are a millennial like I am, I want you to feel empowered to bring up these topics of conversation with your managers and with your leaders, showing them what you're interested about, what's working well, points of friction, any ideas you have, and that you're engaged with tech and that you want to collaborate with them and find better solutions. This is a great way to not only be an advocate for yourself and your feelings about tech, but also to position yourself as a leader and build more trust in your organization.
Boy, with so much technology and the rate at which it's changing, it's a wonder how IT teams can keep up, to be honest. I mean, what are some of their biggest concerns? What do they share with you?
Yeah, I think going back to that shadow IT, 60% of the workforce for Gen Z and Millennials, according to this Cox survey, are using their personal devices. So as you mentioned, it's definitely easier, faster for them to use it, especially when their own devices or their workplace devices may not be working. But it's important to make sure that you're partnering, again, with managed IT providers like Cox Business, Rapid Scale. They're going to be the most effective at it. They're the experts. And so if you are struggling as an IT team or as a leader in business with this and issues like it, definitely reach out to them.
I know we've touched on, future-proof and rising leaders, but people forget pretty quickly. Let's talk about ensuring employee well-being and burnout prevention, because this is a big thing. I mean, all the training into somebody, all the effort, next minute they're gone. What's your advice to avoid all this tech overload and employees feeling overwhelmed?
I think first and foremost, again, just keeping the communication lines open between these generations. Again, when we think about value alignment, when we think about burnout's caused by stress at work. And tech overwhelm, as you mentioned, 2/3 of people are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, especially in the Gen Z and Millennial group with tech. And so if we are communicating about this through clear policy and just keeping those lines of communication open, I think that's going to be one of the best things to help so that we have insights into how these Gen Z and Millennials are feeling. Just as this Cox Business Survey shows, we're feeling very positive about AI and the tech use. However, there's still some overwhelm. So if we're looking at addressing the stress, we want to make sure that people know exactly what's expected of them, what they have access to, and what they can and can't use.
Fascinating. It must be interesting in what you do with the Seamless Coach. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so I am a workplace well-being coach and consultant. I focus on burnout, not only for individuals, but I also consult for organizations. I used to be a therapist in a previous life, so burnout is very important to me, and we know that 75% of the workforce has experienced burnout at one point or another. That's from a Gallup study. So I think it's just important that we, again, are doing studies like this Cox Business one. They showed a disconnect between millennials and Gen Z and business and IT leaders, which, I think it's important to have solid data on this that we can point back to and say, hey, this is actually happening. So really happy to be partnering with Cox Business on this and share more of their research.
Yeah, because how much is too much, tech overload in the workplace, how to talk to your boss. Cybersecurity is a big thing too. That's forever hanging over. I get an email just about every day warning me that, some big company has been hacked and your details were on it. Scares the living daylights out of you. So
right.
It's finally, I want to just ask you, so that our listeners can read more and have a cup of joe and their podgies, coxblue.com/workplace-tech-survey. Is that the address you'd like them to go to?
Yes. So if you want to learn more about Cox Business's research, their key findings, again, please visit coxblue.com/workplace-tech-survey. That's where you're going to find all of the information, even more details than I shared here.
Fascinating. Well, you've taught me something, I'll tell you now. And very interesting indeed, Kelsey. And in closing, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, thanks so much for having me. I think, again, for leaders in business IT, just to be aware that there is this disconnect showing in this research by Cox Business. Again, we're feeling positive. 60% of Gen Z and Millennials are feeling positive about tech use. But again, as you mentioned, still feeling also a little bit overwhelmed. So just making sure that we keep those communication lines open in order to future-proof your business.
Wonderful. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Kelsea Warren. From a beautiful, restful place where there's no burnout in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Lucky thing. Workplace values expert. That's what she is. And she's founder of the Seamless Coach LLC. You can look that up on Google. And with a background in what she did, no wonder she can understand the touch of psychology as well with these millennials and Gen Z and so on. But there you go. That's where it's going. That's what's happening. And go to the website, read more, learn more. That's coxblue.com/workplace-tech-survey. Hope you enjoyed the episode. I'll be back soon with another Mark Bishop Show.
Join us again for another episode of The Mark Bishop Show. It's a production of Mark Bishop Media.